Hello team and welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today in a 1v1 between Pug in blue and Romad Quantum Scientist in red. Looks like Pug is going to spawn on the right hand side of the map, Romad's going to be on the left hand side. There is a handful of trade routes on the left hand side, on the leftmost islands, that Romad will have first dibs on, assuming that Romad does not spawn in the top right of the map, which I don't think is likely and not what Romad elects to do. Romad is going to start in a north to south line on the left hand side of this big island, and Pug will be in the mountains and forests and build a town immediately. Both players are going to build a town immediately. And Pug is going to elect to go for 2 airports. We'll see what sort of planes show up here. And it will be strikers. It's going to be the double airport striker build from blue. Love to see this, and the range of the airports is such that these blue planes will likely be able to reach these 2 towns and ports in the bottom. Not fully, especially this rightmost airport. But I suspect that the command would be close enough, and here's the answer, is that the leftmost airport will be able to attack this town and port directly, and the rightmost airport will get to this range. So the strikers can still do a bunch of damage to those buildings, but they won't be able to actually target command them as effectively. And Romad's got these 3 towns, 2 ports, and a barracks being the first unit producing building that Red is going to create. Sub-pen for Romad. This water is all reachable by this sub-pen, which is kind of nice. The subs could get all the way to the top right of the map. And so Red will be able to start capping the water territories. Pug does have a dock in this little bay by this oil refinery in the water, this energy. There's 4 refineries in general, 4 energy locations for blue on the right hand side. Neither player is going to struggle for energy in this game, with Romad sitting on 2 very accessible refineries themselves. Or energy wells. I guess they're not refineries until a refinery is built on them, obviously. But I mess up that naming all the time, that nomenclature. Okay, let me get rid of this. I don't know why the tooltips are on. I must have turned them on at some point to figure out how long a unit takes to produce, I think, is usually why I turn on the tooltips. Don't remember them all by heart yet. It's a missile boat for blue. Missile boats are kind of nice if Red were to open up with planes somewhere in this mountain range. The missile boats could park out in this little body of water and then intercept a lot of the flights that Red would decide to make. It doesn't really matter in this game because Romad is not going for planes. And Red is building the first factory in the mountain range. Both players have a pretty good defensive position at the start of their bases with the mountain ranges here. So both players will have enough room to dig in if the other player starts pushing very aggressively. Pug's going to try to take the center of the map and start creating a defensive line. It'll be up to Romad to decide whether to jump all these infantry on the defensive line before these blue infantry are fully dug in. But for now, it looks like Romad decides to also dig in and just make a big stalemate in the center of the map. Because there's submarines out, this is going to be a cruiser as the second boat from blue. Destroyers are really nice against submarines because of their detection ability. It's not like Pug will know that there's an airport here. If we actually look at Pug's vision, this is it. Same thing for Romad. Romad will only see this defensive line from blue. And Red's got the first artillery pieces on the way. An airport now for Romad. These 2 factories could also become tank producing factories potentially if Red decides to build a lot of energy. The tanks in the open field would do quite well. They could punch through this defensive line, and then moving into the mountains is where it kind of gets sketchy for Red in a tank heavy play, because tanks move so much more slowly through the mountain range than other units. And blue nearly has 6 strikers at this point. There's still no first refinery for Pug. I'm lying to you. There is the first refinery on the way. on the bottom right of the map. And 2 strikers going out, or the leftmost airport sending out strikers. Gonna get like a pretty decent scout here for blue to see the, you know, the existence of this refinery and also potentially the airport. Buildings in mountain ranges have more stealth, and 2 strikers is maybe enough. I think 3 would definitely have shown this airport. This third one showing up now. And I'm going to be kind of surprised if these strikers destroy this refinery. You can see, like, so now that there's 3 strikers here, blue actually has the detection. And on subsequent runs, I don't think that this refinery can be targeted. But Pug might just decide to send all the strikers at this location. For the second run, the first refinery will be complete, and is now. It is going to be immediately a switch up into destroyers. Pug is canceling that one cruiser from being created after seeing this submarine pen. And now a backside dock for Romad. There's still a lot of territory, like water territories, that Red can cap here. Also, it opens up the possibility for Romad to build a transport boat and move some infantry across to start capping these islands, which are very important because of these trade routes. The longer that the game goes. And in response to the strikers that Romad sees, Red is switching into all SAM production out of the factories. And Pug is going to go for a push. I kind of like this play from blue, especially because these SAMs are being created. It's not like Pug can see this. The factories aren't even exposed. But because of the lack of artillery and the air support from blue, Pug will be able to break through the defensive line. Just it remains to be seen how far blue is going to be able to push past the defensive line after getting through. Second refinery for Romad, who is going for bombers out of the airport. And we're about to hear a beep beep from Pug on the energy. 592 income for blue, 651 for red. And Pug builds a very aggressive forward factory. It's pretty safe. There's no real way for Romad to punish this. And the nice thing for blue is that reinforcements from this factory will get to the front lines way quicker than if blue built it back in the mountain range. Second refinery now for Pug, who continues to build destroyers in this impending showdown between red submarines and blue missile boats and destroyers. So Pug is officially through here. Romad had to put a bunch of units over on the left-hand side to defend against the strikers. Red using the infantry to build these entrenchments before the SAMs get here, so the SAMs can just show up and park themselves directly behind the sandbags instead of entrenching themselves and taking the fatigue damage. Since all units, when they dig in, they take fatigue damage, which is either they'll use more energy if they're an energy producing unit, which is really just the tank, or they'll take health damage while they dig in. First bomber out, it's an interceptor follow-up from Romad, which is nice to combat the strikers. Over time, the SAMs will be able to cover this area with the entrenchments, but if the strikers start going like more north, it's a little bit more difficult to have coverage all over the place with SAMs, because ideally Red would like to stop making SAMs at some point and switch back to artillery's pieces or maybe even tanks. And yeah, this was kind of the question earlier. Even if blue were to push through, it's very difficult to get anything done here with the blue infantry, just because defender's advantage is so strong for red. And the mountain range, even if blue got into the base of red. I mean, you can see Pug's vision now with these infantry getting more visibility into the mountain range, uncovering 2 of the factories, not seeing the third quite yet. And eco-wise, 672 for blue and 691 for red. top down, relatively even on the territory's cap. The subs for Romad are down in the south. And this opens up an opportunity for these 3 boats to actually snipe this sub pen for blue, if Pug plays this correctly. I think this is on the table. There's some SAMs that are dug in along the coast, but SAMs aren't all that effective against boats that would just be targeting the sub pen. The strength of destroyers detecting the submarine and then doing a lot of damage to them with those depth charges. And was that the first striker that went down? It looks like Blue's striker count is still pretty healthy. 2 interceptors now complete for Romad. This will help out a lot in defending stuff like this. Yeah, not only if the strikers went to the north, but also just all the way south here against these towns and ports. The interceptors can be quite useful. Right now they're proccing towards the destroyers. They don't do all that much damage to ground units. And so the 2 blue boats are going to destroy this sub pen, which will leave Romad with just these 3 subs somewhere. Yeah, okay, they're moving back up north. I will be very surprised if this destroyer doesn't destroy the submarine pen. I think what was delaying it right there was a submarine actually completed construction, so it had to 1v1 that thing real quick. And Pug building more production close to the front lines, which will mean the follow-up pushes for blue are quite strong. Romad's vision here doesn't see that there's more production being added in the field, but sees the 2 factories and probably can assume that more blue buildings are going to go down there. If Pug felt comfortable enough and decided to build the producers here to begin with, there's no real reason why blue wouldn't just keep going with it. Subpen is destroyed. 3 missile boats for Romad, now a 4th missile boat making their way to the main theater of battle. And a 2nd dock for Romad in the Northern Sea. No movement of red units to the leftmost islands quite yet. And eco-wise, 741 for red, 762 for blue. It's more SAMs for Romad. Taking down 1 more striker, we'll probably get another striker, maybe even a 3rd striker, really. There's 4 SAMs here, and the strikers are kind of coming in 1 at a time. Romad's airport is nearly full after this interceptor's done. 1 more plane will partially build, but won't be able to complete because there's no more room on the runway. Or on the, the tarmac, whatever we want to call this. And so red will need to make an airstrip at some point if Romad wants to continue building planes like this. The strikers did all right, but at this point I guess the advantage for blue and having a bunch of strikers that show up kind of unexpectedly, that's with the strength of that 2 airport start. At this point, it's been negated. There's enough anti-air for Romad to deal with these planes between the 2 interceptors and all these SAMs to the south, and then a handful of SAMs to the north as well. Looking on Blue's airports, there's not that many strikers that are left. And Romad's tanks on top of the blue SAMs. I don't know, are they going to go by the blue SAMs? No, they're going to stay here and they're going to target these things, doing what tanks do best, one of the things that they do best. He'll just make it so that the bombers for red are so much more effective, or they don't need to deal with these SAMs anymore, and they can focus on producers and the ground army. Nice play by Pug to get one of the SAMs out of there. There are 2 more SAMs on this factory for blue. Good navy from Romad. Certainly a dock at risk for Pug. It's fully seen at this point. I can't imagine a situation where Romad won't go destroy this at this point. 4 missile boats is definitely enough to deal with the 4 strikers that are on these these two airports for blue. And it'll be really sweet for red if all three of these interceptors get out of here. And they probably won't. I'm gonna bet that this one gets shot down. One more Sam's gonna fly out. And would you look at that? It's 4 factories now for Romad, 3 barracks in this mountain range, which really mirrors what Pug has. Red has the artillery advantage right now. And there's even more SAMs for Romad. And top down, Romad hasn't landed on the leftmost islands, but starting to take some of the territory in the west. Does this Masobo get it? No. Doesn't shoot the blue striker one more time. This refinery is at risk if all of these red boats were to take on this refinery and one cruiser. Even with the blue planes, I think the red navy would be able to do that. Little bit of a tense moment if you're Romad, just because there's a buildup of artillery pieces and a decent amount of SAMs to support. So the bombers can't chip away at this army as effectively as they probably would like to. But as mentioned before at the beginning of the game, it's still so tough to push in the mountain range if you're blue here. No entrenchment lines from red though, that is good for Pug. And I'd expect blue to just try to go for it here and hope for the best. Eco-wise, it's 831 for Romad. 822 for Pug, who's making more money per minute, which does matter. Strategically, this is unfortunate to lose one of the refineries. Luckily for Pug, there's 2 already complete on land. So we'll see if I was right with all saying that between the planes and the cruiser, blue still won't be able to defend that refinery, while kicking off a very large battle at the doorstep of Romad's main base. So nice play for Romad to destroy the refinery. All of the boats might get destroyed here. 3 submarines get out though, which is very nice for Romad to keep those alive. 3 subs, still a very deadly number of subs, and it's not like Romad will want to rebuild a submarine pen super quick in this game, I don't believe. And the first transport boat for Romad by this barracks, which would signal to me that Romad is getting prepared to start doing a landing on the left-hand side of the map, maybe Pug's main base. Pug's got this one single line going around to the north, where it's like a large encirclement on Romad's main base. And at the very least, protects this blue barracks to the north. Romad's going to start racing these boats around to the north to try to get on top of this town and port. Destroying that would be big and launch Romad even further ahead economically. It's still 822 income for blue. I don't need the keyboard shortcuts. And 851 for red. So very close, but if this town and port goes down, then red will certainly be ahead. Pug is going for it, sending all of the SAMs into the northern part of this mountain range. Still leaves 4 at home for Pug, which is kind of nice. And it's a very decent push. The infantry's now started moving into the mountain range. The blue forces are still a little bit spread out. Handful of units over to the north, capping and taking on some of this infantry. And the SAMs get in, destroy this. What was this? This was a barracks. And now Pug, with a very aggressive barracks to keep up the pressure. Romad is building factories behind the mountain range at this point, probably aiming to buy time. But a very decent arty blob from Pug. There's only one bomber left for Romad. But these 7 missile boats, or 6 missile boats rather, in the north are kind of a big deal. And top down, Romad's now across this little island to the bottom left. One of the factories for Romad goes down. Still a large army for Blue. And I almost want to start saying that this is looking good for Pug. Full dot of SAMs really protects from the bombers or the interceptors even being used. The striker count for Pug is also pretty much replenished by this point. Over time, these blue planes will be able to destroy this town and port. There's only one SAM that's dug in that will die on this first pass. Romad still has these interceptors that will likely get launched to the south. The town, or rather I guess that's the port that goes down for Pug. Pug will surely lose that town as well. Which sort of puts Pug into an all-in, but not even really, because Blue has built this barracks here and is capping all this territory to the north of Romad's base. Nice thing for these red missile boats is that they will actually be able to destroy this factory and this barracks as well. I think these two units, or these two producers, are very close to the coast. But the question is whether there's already too much damage been done, and is there any real way that Romad can clean up this many artillery pieces without a already standing army. As units one at a time pop out of the factories, they'll be immediately shelled by the blue artillery pieces, which just, they get to kind of sit here already deployed and just shell away. And that's, so you can see this. I don't want to say it's a panic factory or something, but it's probably a very uncomfortable factory for Romad to build. An interesting game. I feel like this kind of just... I don't know. This is an interesting one. I suspect that this caught Romad a little off guard. And now eco-wise 811 for red and 849 for Pug in blue. Who, despite losing the town and port, still in pretty decent shape. The boats for blue at this point are gonna start pushing around the south of the map, going around this peninsula. And as mentioned before, it won't be pretty, but over time the strikers will be able to destroy all this eco in the south for Romad. The barracks is destroyed. The missile boats for red are going to hang out here to try to focus on this factory. And Pug's making 84 a minute at 849 total. Romad's making a 111 a minute. 753 total, but that is it. GG. Well played both. Well played Pug. Those like aggressive factories and barracks just shows you if you build your producers close to the front, your army will accumulate much more quickly. Because those units, they pop out of the producers and they're pretty much red in the fight. Higher risk, higher reward. And wow, what a game. But probably some of the most close graphs we've seen in a while. GG, well played both. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the cast. Every Friday there's a new cast. I appreciate all the likes, subs, comments on the videos. Just watch the video. It all helps the channel grow. And I hope you have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. Thank you, folks. Enjoy. Peace.